This is a trade recap for Friday, the 13th of February, 2026. Pretty typical day in the markets after a pretty good wash down that we saw yesterday. Continuing on as usual with one and done. This was number 13 of 30. And yeah, it works. You're a bozo. Anywho, pretty again, like I said, normal this morning. Pat developed our trade plans, and there were some quirkiness with the levels that, again, were available to us today. So definitely something to look into there. But all in all, it's one of those things. It was a pretty normal day in terms of the actual executions, trades, emotions, nothing really out of the ordinary. Lots of opportunity still with the levels that were Pat chose, and all in all, really just a good way to wrap up the week. Trying to think anything else to add right at this moment, but no. But yeah, if you're looking for some coaching or guidance, or you're struggling, or you're new and you want to learn this, I highly recommend pay attention to the next part because it's for you. I am a student of this gentleman. This is Pat Mitchell. He is a professional day trader, though he originally was in blue-collar work, and he has been in the markets for a little over a decade now, and he has built up a incredible process and knowledge base when it comes to learning how to day trade. He runs a service called Trick Trades. He has also put together inside of Trick Trades a program called SizeUp, and that's what I do. And it is a structured program for learning how to day trade. You start with a small cash account, and you basically build that up with your education, experience, and screen time to eventually hit different milestones and become a full-time professional day trader. So if you're interested in something like that, great person, probably one of the highest quality coaches when it comes to day trading out there, if not the highest quality. I don't personally know of any other coaches that I can stand by or say that about, and I've been around a few of them in terms of their services, and nothing even comes close to what Pat offers. So if you're looking for a high quality coach, I cannot recommend him enough. And like I said before, you can find him over at tricktrades.com. He also has a YouTube channel on his own where he posts recaps usually daily. If you want to check that out, you can get a little preview of the kind of information he offers and the quality. And that is just a very, very small amount of the knowledge he possesses. But yeah, definitely check him out. It will be worth your time and effort to go through some of his content and judge for yourself. And with that being said, let's get into the charts. Here is a recording of the live session as we head into the open. Got about a minute until the open, so just kind of got things prepared. If you're new here, the way we do this or have our stuff set up is we have our, or at least I do, and probably most of the members do. These are the daily charts here on the left for SPY and Qs. This is the 1 minute intraday in the middle, and then I have order execution on the right. All these blue levels you see on the daily chart are plotted typically the night before and refined the morning of a trade session by Pat. And then he builds our trade plan off of that. And then we just follow, again, that trade plan and execute appropriately and within the strategy and the process that he has outlined in the SizeUp program. So we got about 40 seconds before the open. As you can see, we had this kind of popped up, messing around pre-market on some data releases. I believe it was CPI for today. We don't trade numbers or anything like that, but again, we just have to pay attention to where it kind of puts things into relation of the levels that are valid. Q's was the primary watch for today, even though I did end up executing on SPY. All right, so here's the open. And again, we're kind of in the middle of the nowhere on Q's there, and SPY's kind of right on top of that level. So it's one of those things where we had to demonstrate some patience today to let things set up and come into appropriate levels before executing. Just getting zoomed in a little bit, just kind of watch some things, make sure not missing anything or anything's awry. So far, we're looking good and just kind of being patient with things and watching how it plays. And again, with this strategy and the way Pat has kind of built things, it's the days where we actually get to practice our patience is actually a little rarer. Most of the time, we seems like we just hit our levels, we get our executions, and the plan just works. Now on SPY, you can kind of see, well, it's kind of interacting with the level, so why not take that one? We're more favoring the short on SPY at that level. And that was with Pat's guidance. But as you can also see, if you look at where these levels are, there is a pretty decent amount of range on these levels, which is why you have to wait. And again, depending on what your risk profile is, that's the other thing, is like sometimes you can start in a little early when coming into a range, and sometimes you can't. You can see some decent wicks on some back and forth, volumes decent, which is again typical on some of these days where you have this kind of market in like information or macroeconomic information coming out. It's just add some noise in it. So you gotta, again, sometimes giving it a minute or so or two to clear up isn't the worst idea either. You see SPY kind of came up towards pre-market high range and then kind of started rejecting. Q's doing the same thing, but Q's is still sitting in the middle, pretty much nowhere. Yeah, there's some technicals from a few days ago, but it's one of those things where how valid, how much volume is there is a whole nother question. So right now it's one of those things like what would be a good indication? And that would be like on SPY, it's coming down to test the prior close, and how it's going to interact there is going to be very, very important in terms of like kind of giving us some hints on what's going on, where this thing might want to go. And again, as it's coming down, it's kind of checking like things like the premium and things like that. How are things shifting around, just to keep it on, make sure everything's normal. There's nothing out of the ordinary that you might catch off guard. So you saw it in like spies came down to that level, bounced on that first reaction, and then it kind of slices through it, which is interesting. So again, it seems to be showing a bit of weakness there. Now it hasn't moved down far enough to really validate that, but now it is. As you can see, again, it's breaking through kind of that support range, or playing with it, I would say, not breaking through. And this is where that patience pays off. So it's like, okay, now we've got enough distance away from it. So if it comes back up into that level, and since we wanted that level more short than long, it seems valid. So going ahead and get the puts loaded up, went with the 682 puts on that one. So now I'm waiting for basically it to come up and retest that level to enter. All right, came close enough. Risk is fairly decent on this one too. So now in, and just got to wait for it to kind of see what it does. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Being prepared to, add average, correct, manage the trade, but we're getting some follow through, it looks like. And then it kind of tries to truly test the level, which was kind of like the more ideal entry. And in hindsight, probably could have placed an ad right there, considering how tight the risk is. Probably wouldn't have gone crazy with. I probably would have done just a single ad. Don't want to get crazy with size or anything, because you can see the candles are kind of whippy. And on that reaction and follow through, sold it. And it doesn't seem like, again, that's anything massive, but again, that's being consistent. One and done, the consistency and all that stuff is very important for traders to develop, especially when you're, again, we are, I guess you'd say everyone that's doing this is a trader, but ultimately it's one of those things where we're also kind of more account builders than anything. So let's see here, get myself popped back up. All right, and as you can see, this is that area where I entered, and on that first reaction paid myself, and as you can see, got follow through all the way down to the lower level, and then it bounced right off of that. So Pat's levels and trade plan worked out beautifully. So, and same with Q's, came down to its level, bounced right off that. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those kind of an interesting thing. Like, there are so many opportunities on this that you could have cleaned up nicely. Obviously, for what I'm doing, that's not the goal here. The goal is the consistency and the discipline and building good habits. But there are plenty of opportunities on this chart to be done within, think about it. Came up to this, sliced back through, head bumped, washed. That would have been, again, a beautiful trade right there on that kind of first initial one. Q's maybe not having the same kind of setup because, again, the level, there wasn't really a level there to go off of for that head bump. Comes down to the level. Again, you're on this big wash, you'd be just paying yourself. Just keep taking pieces off as it follows through. Comes down. And basically, as you're coming to this level, you should be more or less out, coming into a place that it could bounce. In fact, like this lighter, kind of more minor level right here that I've marked probably would have been where you should have been out completely. And then just watch the level. This one right here, could have flipped it long, came right into level, hit it, ride it right back up into this level. Maybe a little bit before where it kind of the pre-market range was and kind of where it tested a little bit. But again, like that to that, what is that? 681.29 to 677.59. That's 4 points of range, both directions. Like, what more on options? That'd be, you'd clean up like no problem, which is the beautiful thing about options and the strategy. And again, if you took Q's, I mean, what was Q's at the very bottom? It was 596.42. Coming back up, I would have probably been wanting to be out like all out right here. And again, you got some big pushes here. So it's one of those things where this one came up basically, what would that be? 5.5 points, almost 6, depending on where exactly you got out. So again, there's more than enough range with options, and that's the beautiful thing about them. They respond so well, especially on these days. Yeah, I mean, like on Qs, the volatility probably pushed the premium up to where it was a little expensive. So again, that is something you do have to take into the calculus of like how much size and where you risk off of and how you manage that trade and really what you're willing to put into it. But ultimately, it's like day in, day out, Pat's trade plans come to fruition. And I mean, they work. And anyone that's been a member or, again, just watching his like recaps that he posts over on his YouTube channel, again, you'll see the exact same thing where these things he just rocks it damn near every day. And that's the kind of thing you can expect when you have a good, competent mentor and coach. That's the kind of things that you can expect and really bank on. Again, everyone thinks it's about the money. And it's like one of those things like when you have someone that has such a refined process that is so dialed in that these trades nail damn near every single day at the rate that they do. I mean, it's a little ridiculous, actually. And again, it's one thing I've said this before, that if you told people like the actual like hit rate on this in terms of percentage of what trades work versus don't, they wouldn't believe you. And that's the weird thing about this, but it is what it is. And that's what happens when you actually put everything together like he has over the past decade and you refine it. And then we as students come in and just, again, you have to kind of give yourself over to the strategy and the process to learn how to do it. And then over time, it's like, yeah, you can be just as consistent. You just don't fight the process, don't fight your mentor, don't fight your coach. Basically, just give into this and absorb as much as possible, because that's, again, what will make you a successful trader. So with that being said, hope everyone has a great weekend. Again, if you're looking for a coach and mentor, Pat Mitchell over at Trick Trades, he's the one you want to be learning from. You can jump over to tricktrades.com, sign up for the service. If you're kind of wondering what the SizeUp program is about, there'll be a link down in the description to a webinar Pat put on that describes the SizeUp program, how it's structured, how it functions, and whatnot. So I highly recommend you check that out as well. And if you're still on the fence about any of this and you want to try and check out his content and the quality of the information he puts out, you can get a sample of that over on his YouTube page. He has over 1,500 videos out for there. So it's one of those things like there's a lot of content there. How much you glean from that obviously is going to depend on you, where you're at, and again, your attention span and all that kind of stuff. But I highly recommend, if you're serious about this, just give the service a shot. Try it for a month. If it is in alignment with what you're looking for, I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about Pat and what he's done for me, and I don't think there are many members that could say the opposite. We've all learned quite a bit about trading ourselves and can really see a path to success with this as a full-time career. So yeah, with enough of that being said, gone on probably long enough with that. But anyway, everyone, have a good weekend. We'll catch everyone next week. Monday is a trading holiday, so it's one of those things, the markets will be closed. So we will catch everyone on Tuesday for the next one. Have a good one.